I woke up from surgery with a new heart, only to find out my fiancé didn't save my life. He used me as a biological evidence locker. The fluorescent lights in Seoul Genesis Hospital hummed like trapped insects. Zainab Ekwensi's fingers found her mother's amber pendant before her eyes opened. The morphine softened everything, but chest pain anchored her to the world. Jinwoo's voice came from her left, warm with relief. "You're awake. The surgery went perfectly. Your new heart is already beating like it was always yours." She turned her head. He stood in surgical scrubs, smelling of disinfectant, rimless glasses catching the light. "How long?" 18 hours. Complex, but you're going to be fine now. No more waiting for a donor. No more wondering if you die like your mother." Something cold moved through her chest. "Oh, who was the donor?" His thumb stopped moving for 2 seconds. "A young woman, motorcycle accident, brain death. Her family wanted her organs to save lives. She'd be proud to know she gave you a future." Zainab wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe him like when he fast-tracked her onto the transplant list. When he proposed 6 months ago, when he promised research opportunities honoring her mother's memory. But that cold thing kept moving. "Can I see the donor file?" "Hospital policy protects donor anonymity. You know that. Rest now. Dr. Obi wants to see you later." He left. Zainab lay listening to machines measuring her new heart's rhythm, trying to remember why she'd been certain 3 months ago something was wrong with the transplant list. The memories surfaced through morphine. She'd hacked the hospital database and found 17 names, all foreign students, all rare blood types, all marked Living Archive, approved. She'd convinced herself it was research designation. That grief made you see conspiracies. That Jinwoo loved her too much to lie. Her mother's voice whispered, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." The door opened. Dr. Nena Obi swept in like royalty, emerald blazer sharp, locks pinned in a crown. She'd made Seoul feel less foreign, promised intelligence and hard work could overcome any disadvantage. "Look at you. I told you Jinwoo would take care of you. Best surgeon in the country, and he loves you." Something in Zainab's chest lurched. "Dr. Obi, can I ask you something? Have you ever heard of something called a living archive protocol?" The change was microscopic. Eye tightening, half-breath pause. Then the smile returned. "Where did you hear that term?" "I dreamed it. During surgery. It felt important." Nena's hand squeezed hers. "Anesthesia causes strange dreams, especially with new anti-rejection medications. Don't trouble yourself with phantoms. Focus on healing. Focus on the beautiful life with Jinwoo." After she left, Zainab waited until shift change before sitting up. Pain was comprehensive, but manageable. She'd watched her mother work double shifts with untreated arthritis. Pain was just information. Her phone had 36 missed notifications and one message from an unknown number sent 4 hours ago. "They killed her. They'll kill you too. Meet me in the hospital cafeteria at midnight. You'd come alone. H." At 11:47 p.m., Zainab pulled the IV from her arm. Blood bloomed dark against pale blue. She pressed stolen gauze and counted to 30. The hallway stretched empty and antiseptic. She'd studied the layout obsessively before surgery, back when knowledge felt like control. The cafeteria was 2 floors down. She made it 3 steps before her vision blurred. "This is stupid. You just had major surgery." But the message burned. They killed her. The stairwell door clicked shut behind her. Each step sent shockwaves through her sternum. By the cafeteria level, sweat plastered her gown to her back. A single figure sat in the far corner, hunched over coffee. The woman looked up. Small, compact, exhausted beauty with dark circles. Fingers wrapped around the cup like it might escape. "You came. I didn't think you would." She tugged her earlobe, jerky and compulsive. "I thought he'd have you too sedated to walk." "Who are you?" "Hee-Jin Lim. Medical records." She glanced toward the entrance. "Sit before you fall. You look like death." Zainab lowered into a chair. The world swayed. "You said they killed her. Who?" Hee-Jin pulled a USB drive from her pocket, set it between them like a grenade. "The donor, except she wasn't. Park Min-seo, 28. Worked quality control at Hwasung Pharmaceuticals until she discovered falsified clinical trial data. was going to testify. Fluorescent lights buzzed. And? She disappeared 3 months ago. Police say she fled to avoid prosecution for corporate espionage. But I have her autopsy report. She didn't die in a motorcycle accident. She was alive when they harvested her organs. Ice spread through Zainab's chest. That's insane. They murdered her for organs? No. They murdered her to hide what she knew. The organs were convenient disposal, except they didn't dispose of it. They transplanted it into people like you. People like me, foreign students, rare blood types, socially isolated, grateful enough not to ask questions, vulnerable enough to control if they did. You're the 18th. I've documented this for 2 years, too scared to act. Too scared until I realized you were engaged to Dr. Ree. If he can do this to someone he claims to love, he can do this to anyone. Zainab's hand found her pendant. Why should I believe you? I know how it sounds, but you're going to start having visions. Memories that aren't yours. Other patients reported it before they disappeared. Dreams of a woman crying for help, dreams of a pharmaceutical lab, dreams more real than your own life. It's the chip in your new heart, supposed to monitor anti-rejection metrics. That's what they tell the ethics board. But it preserves neural patterns, memory fragments encoded in cardiac tissue. Min Seo knew she was dying. She left herself behind like a message in a bottle. The world tilted. You're insane. Maybe, but in 3 days you'll dream about a woman in a pharmaceutical clean room, crying because she knows they're coming. You'll remember the smell of her fear, how the lights look like ice, her breathing pattern. When you wake up, you'll know I'm telling the truth. She walked away, leaving the USB drive behind. Zainab sat alone for 15 minutes, and the drive pulsed in half-light. Finally, she took it. If you've made it this far through the darkness, you're not alone in trying to make sense of what seems impossible. Sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that need to be heard. She made it back unseen, slipped the IV back in, closed her eyes against ceiling tiles, and dreamed of a woman she'd never met, crying in a room smelling of chemicals and terror. The woman had Min Seo's face, though Zainab had never seen a photograph. She knew it like her own reflection. Min Seo wore a white lab coat, hands trembling as she pipetted yellow liquid into test tubes. Fluorescent lights erased shadows. They're coming. I shouldn't have looked at the Phase 3 data. The door opened. 2 massive, expressionless security guards. Min Seo dropped the pipette. It shattered, sound too loud. My echoing wrong, making Zainab's new heart stutter. Dr. Park, you need to come with us. Dr. Ree wants to speak with you. Downstairs. The name landed like a blade. Min Seo's fear tasted like copper and ash. Everyone at Hwasung knew about the sub-basement levels, rooms off blueprints, places where experimental protocols hid from ethics boards. Please. I have a sister. She's getting married next month. A guard grabbed her arm. Zainab woke choking on someone else's scream. The hospital room materialized in fragments. Her hands pressed her chest, fingers splayed over surgical dressing, as if she could reach through to rip out the heart that didn't belong. The heart full of Min Seo's terror. Jin-woo stood in the doorway holding breakfast. His expression was perfect concern mixed with love. How had she never noticed how calculated his expressions were? I had a nightmare. Anesthesia can cause that. It'll pass. He set the tray down, adjusted it precisely. Dr. Obi mentioned you seemed anxious. Are you feeling anxious now? The question was a trap. No, just tired. He smiled, adjusted his glasses. Good news. Your cardiac markers are excellent. We can discuss discharge tomorrow if you continue improving. I know this has been frightening, but you're doing so well. Better than I hoped. His thumb traced circles on her wrist, monitoring her pulse, measuring compliance, ensuring his experiment remained stable. Tell me about Park Min Seo. Microscopic change. Eyes widening, 2-second pause. Then perfect confusion. I don't know anyone by that name, should I? She was the donor. I the woman whose heart is in my chest. He reached for her hand. She tucked it away. I told you, donor identities are protected. Where did you hear that name? I dreamed it. I dreamed about a woman named Min Seo in a laboratory. Men came to take her downstairs. And you were there. Jin-woo stood, movements controlled, surgical. Medications cause vivid dreams, hallucinations even, documented side effect. It didn't feel like a hallucination. They never do. That's what makes them distressing. But you need to trust me. I would never let anything bad happen to you. Everything I've done has been to save your life. The words hung like smoke. Everything. What exactly have you done? I fast-tracked your transplant, used every connection because I couldn't watch you die like my sister did, like your mother did. I couldn't lose you. Beautiful performance. If she hadn't spent the night dreaming Minseo's memories, feeling the dead woman's terror, she might have believed him. Show me my surgical report, the detailed one listing every procedure. Jin-woo adjusted his glasses, taking 3 seconds too long. I'll have my assistant send it. But this paranoia is concerning. We should have Dr. Obi evaluate you for post-surgical psychosis. With your stress levels, I'm not psychotic. Of course not. But let's be thorough. For your safety. He left, taking breakfast. The door clicked like a lock. Zainab waited 3 minutes, then reached for her phone. The USB drive was hidden in her bedside drawer, tucked inside the empty amber pendant case. The hospital had visitor computers in the family lounge. She made it there without incident. At 6:47 a.m., it was empty except for a sleeping man whose daughter was in ICU. The computer accepted the drive. 17 folders, each labeled with name and date. Park Min-seo's was most recent. Inside, autopsy photographs. Toxicology showing paralytics and sedatives. Organ harvest documentation time-stamped 3 hours before official death. And video labeled Clean Room Final. Grainy security footage showed Min-seo in the laboratory from Zainab's dream, down to floor tile patterns. Jin-woo entered at 3:19:45 in surgical scrubs. Muffled audio fragments. Falsified the trial data. 16 patients died. Necessary sacrifices for medical progress. Going to the regulatory board. Can't let you do that, Min-seo. Jin-woo's hand withdrew a syringe. Min-seo backed against the bench. Please, I won't tell anyone. I'll leave the country. You know I can't risk that, but you won't be wasted. Your heart is AB negative, and we have a perfect recipient. You'll live on through her. The syringe found Min-seo's neck. She collapsed. Zainab closed the laptop before vomiting. When the shaking stopped, she opened her patient portal. The surgical report was uploaded. She scrolled until she found additional procedures performed. Cardiac neural interface device, experimental protocol, HW-7734. Implanted for continuous biometric monitoring and neural pattern preservation. Clinical language obscuring horror. Confirmation Hyojin told the truth. They'd put a chip in her heart to preserve Min-seo's memories. A chip turning Zainab into a living evidence locker for a murdered woman's testimony. In moments like these, when everything you thought was true shatters, you realize how much you need people who see what others refuse to look at. That's what keeps us searching for truth, even when it terrifies us. Her phone buzzed. He knows you know. Get out. Now. H. Zainab had 4 minutes before shift change, when nurses would flood hallways and every exit would become a gauntlet. She moved like a ghost haunting her own future corpse. Each step sent lightning through her chest, but pain was information, and the information said, move or die. The service elevator near laundry was her best option. She'd mapped the route weeks ago. The doors opened. Heejin stood inside holding folded street clothes and a baseball cap. 2 minutes. Change now. Security got an alert you're missing. They're locking down main exits. How did you? I've monitored security dispatch for 2 years. Change. How do you now? Zainab stripped off the gown, pulled on sweatpants and oversized hoodie. Everything smelled like someone else's detergent, foreign and oddly comforting. The cap covered her braids. Why are you helping me? Heejin's hand moved to her earlobe. Because my brother died in one of Jin-woo's trials and I did nothing. Because 17 people are dead and I documented every death like a good clerk. Because maybe if I save you, I can sleep again. The elevator stopped at loading dock level. Pre-dawn gray, delivery trucks, diesel, and rotting vegetables. Zainab followed Hyejin into the maze of service vehicles. My car's 2 blocks away. Can you make it? I have to. They made it 1 block. Zainab, stop! Dr. Nena's voice carried across the parking lot. She stood between them and freedom in her emerald blazer, looking like she'd been waiting. Dr. Obi. Zainab stopped because her legs stopped obeying. Come back inside. You're post-surgical, having psychological complications. Jinwoo is worried sick. He murdered my donor, put her memories in my head, and you knew. You helped him. Something flickered across Nena's face. Not denial. Resignation. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Yejin stepped between them. You recruited her, told her family in Lagos she was getting world-class care, signed off on every experimental protocol. You're as guilty as he is. Guilty? You think this is about guilt? Nena's laugh was bitter. I lost everything to people like Hua Sung once. They stole my research, destroyed my career, made me invisible. I rebuilt by learning the rules, serve power, and or be consumed by it. So you chose to consume others? Feed girls like me to the machine? I chose to survive, to make sure my daughter could go to university without selling herself, to have a voice in rooms where people like us are usually just experiments. Don't judge me for making the only choice they gave me. There's always a choice, Yejin said quietly. Is there? Would you have made a different one? When they offered you a way to matter, to be more than just another dead African girl in statistics? When they made you feel powerful for the first time? She pulled out her phone. Zainab saw her own death in the gesture. I'm sorry, Zainab, truly, but I've come too far to lose everything now. The research Jinwoo is doing could revolutionize how we preserve consciousness, transfer knowledge between victims, between people you've decided are expendable, between donors and recipients. You're not a victim. You're a pioneer. Your name will be in medical journals. As what? A biological filing cabinet? Zainab stepped forward despite the pain. My mother didn't die so I could become someone else's storage device. Your mother died because she was poor, because the system didn't care. I'm trying to change that system from inside. Sometimes that requires sacrifice. Whose sacrifice? Because it's always people with no power sacrificing for people who have too much. Nena's thumb moved toward the call button. Dr. Obi, please, don't do this. You know it's wrong. Whatever you've told yourself, you know. For 3 seconds, Nena hesitated. Her expression cycled through something that might have been regret, grief, and the ghost of who she'd been before. Then she pressed call. Security? I found her. Loading dock, Sector C. She's with an accomplice. Yes, I'll wait. She withdrew a syringe filled with clear liquid. This is a sedative. It won't hurt. You'll wake up in your room. Jinwoo will adjust your medications. In a few weeks, you'll understand this was for the best. You'll thank us. They all do, once the chip finishes integrating. Once it erases me. Once Minseo's memories overwrite mine, and I stop being myself. You'll be better than yourself. You'll be useful. Nena stepped forward. Hyejin moved faster than someone so exhausted should have been able to. Her hand shot out, grabbed Nena's wrist, twisted until the syringe clattered to pavement. Run! My car, 2 blocks east, silver Honda, keys under the driver's mat. Go! Zainab ran. Not behind her, Nena shouting, Hyejin's grunt of pain, body hitting concrete. She didn't look back. Her chest was tearing apart, her new heart hammering Minseo's scream. But she ran through pre-dawn Seoul like her mother's ghost pulled her forward. The Honda was exactly where promised. Keys under the mat. Engine turned over. Zainab's phone buzzed. A photo from Jinwoo. Hyejin unconscious on a gurney. IV lines in her arms. Below it, come back or she becomes the next donor. You have 24 hours. The sun rose over Seoul, painting the city gold and blood. Zainab drove east toward Hwasung Pharmaceuticals, toward the building where Minseo died, toward the only evidence that could prove everything and save Hyejin. Minseo's memories pulsed through her heart like a map in scar tissue. She knew where the servers were, and where bodies were buried, metaphorically and literally, exactly what Jinwoo had been hiding. With Hyejin's life hanging and her own time running out before the chip finished its work, Zainab had one chance to make Minseo's death mean something. Sometimes the stories that break us are the ones we need to tell. If this journey has moved you, if it's made you think about power and survival and the price of truth, then perhaps we're walking this path together for a reason. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown international number. I'm Min Seo's sister. Hyejin gave me your contact before they took her. I have copies of everything. I can help you end this. But you need to trust me the way my sister trusted you with her heart. Meet me at the address below. Come armed. Come ready. Come now. Park Jiyeon. The address was Gangnam, a high-rise housing law firms and investigative journalists. Zainab's hands tightened on the wheel. Her chest felt full of broken glass and borrowed courage. Min Seo's memories whispered directions. She drove toward justice or revenge or whatever waited at their intersection, knowing in 24 hours either she'd expose Jinwoo's horrors or become another name in Hyejin's files. Another foreign student who disappeared. Another sacrifice deemed acceptable by people who confused power with righteousness. The city woke around her, indifferent and beautiful, full of people who'd never know how close they'd come to being next. Park Ji-yeon looked like her sister, the way thunder looks like lightning. Same storm, different expression. She stood in the 20th floor conference room of Choi and Associates law firm, surrounded by documentation representing 2 years of investigation, 5 years of suspicious deaths, one woman's refusal to let her sister's murder be forgotten. You look like hell. Ji-yeon's assessment was clinical. She poured water, handed it to Zainab. When did you last take anti-rejection medication? This morning, I think. Time had become elastic. How do you know about the medication? Because my sister's memories are in your heart, and she knew exactly what protocol Jinwoo would use to keep you compliant. Ji-yeon opened a laptop, pulled up a file. The medication isn't just preventing rejection. It's suppressing your immune response to the chip, allowing faster integration. In another 72 hours, the integration will be irreversible. Meaning? Meaning Min Seo's memories will fully overwrite your neural pathways. You'll retain basic function, but your personality, sense of self, actual memories will be compressed into background noise. You'll become a biological hard drive wearing Zainab Ekwensi's face. The water glass trembled. Can it be removed? Yes, but not before we use it. Ji-yeon turned the laptop. The chip doesn't just store Min Seo's memories. It recorded everything she saw in those final weeks. Every falsified report, every unauthorized experiment, every patient who died because Jinwoo decided their lives were worth less than his research. The chip is a black box, and you're the only person who can access it. How? You have to let Min Seo's memories surface completely, voluntarily. Stop fighting the integration and let her memories flood your consciousness. Ji-yeon pulled out a modified EEG headset. This will record the neural patterns as they emerge, translate them into data files, evidence that can't be dismissed. And then I'll lose myself. No. Then we remove the chip before integration completes. You'll have maybe an hour between full memory access and permanent overwrite. But if something goes wrong, if timing isn't perfect, you might not come back. Zainab thought about her mother, who died because the system decided her life was worth less than treatment cost. Thought about Hyejin, unconscious in Jinwoo's custody. Thought about 17 names, 17 people whose deaths were buried. What about Hyejin? I have people at the hospital, journalists, activists, a prosecutor building a case against Hwasong for 3 years. The moment we go public, they'll move to secure her. But we need evidence first. Without it, Jinwoo will claim she's mentally ill, that you kidnapped her, that this is psychotic break. He's very good at making inconvenient people disappear. How long do we have? Jinwoo's ultimatum expires in 19 hours. But we can't wait. Press conference is 3 p.m. today. Every major news outlet in Seoul, international correspondence. Live stream to prevent suppression. We expose everything at once, or not at all. That's 6 hours. Yes. And if the memory extraction doesn't work, if the chip malfunctions, then Min Seo's testimony dies with you, and Jinwoo continues with 18 more foreign students already on his transplant list. Ji-yeon's voice softened. My sister chose you specifically. She knew Jinwoo was targeting you. In her last coherent moments, she encrypted a message in her own cardiac tissue because she knew he'd use her heart. She left you the key to destroy him. Why me? Because you questioned the transplant lists, hacked the hospital database looking for proof. Even when everyone told you to be grateful, to trust your fiancé, to accept your miracle, some part of you knew something was wrong. Mincio picked you because you were already fighting back. Zainab's hand found her pendant. Her mother's voice whispered through 15 years. Sometimes survival isn't enough. Sometimes you have to burn the whole system down. Let's do it. The memory extraction took 4 hours. Zainab lay on a makeshift cot while Jiyeon attached electrodes to her temples, chest, spine points where the chip's neural interface had spread like roots. The EEG headset hummed. This is going to hurt. Mike, you're forcing a data transfer designed to happen gradually. Your brain will interpret it as sensory overload. Just do it. Jiyeon activated the device. The world exploded into Mincio's final weeks. Zainab was in a pharmaceutical laboratory, pipetting while her supervisor breathed coffee and criticism. In a meeting room, listening to Jinwoo explain why 16 patient deaths were acceptable variants. In a server room at 2 a.m., downloading files proving Hwasung falsified every major clinical trial. Running through Gangnam streets, knowing they were following. In her apartment, calling her sister, crying because she discovered something that made suicide look like mercy. In Jinwoo's office, confronting him, watching his expression shift from concern to calculation. You were always going to figure it out. Too smart, too principled. That's why you'll make a perfect donor. Your heart will save someone worthy. Worthy? You mean someone you can control? I mean someone who understands medicine requires sacrifice. That progress has costs, that some lives matter more than others. You'll live on, Mincio. Through her, through all of them. Isn't that better than just dying? The memories cascaded. Abduction, paralytic injection, terror of being conscious but immobile as they prepped her for harvest. Mincio's last thought before darkness. Find my sister. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her to burn it all down. Zainab surfaced choking on Mincio's final scream. I've got it. Jiyeon's hands moved frantically. Neural patterns recorded, translating to video files, audio reconstructions, years of evidence. Every crime documented from inside. Heejin, my people are moving now. I get enough to file criminal charges, get warrants. The prosecutor is coordinating with hospital security. They're extracting her within the hour. And the press conference, still on schedule, 90 minutes. Can you walk? Zainab's chest felt full of shattered glass and borrowed ghosts. I can do whatever I need to do. The press conference was held in the law firm's main auditorium. Cameras lined the back wall. Journalists filled every seat. Prosecutors stood in wings. Jinwoo sat in the front row. He'd come because arrogance was gravity. He couldn't imagine facing consequences. His expression was calm, concerned, the face of a man whose fiancé was having a public breakdown. Dr. Nena sat beside him, emerald blazer impeccable, expression neutral. Zainab walked to the podium. The microphone squealed, then settled into heavy silence. All right, my name is Zainab Ekwensi. 6 days ago, I received a heart transplant from Park Min-seo, who was murdered by Dr. Jinwoo Ri and Hwasung Pharmaceuticals to silence her whistleblowing. What I'm about to show you is her testimony, recorded in neural tissue and extracted from the experimental chip Dr. Ri implanted without my consent. She nodded to Jiyeon. The screens lit with reconstructed memories, video files translated from neural patterns into undeniable evidence. Minceo in the laboratory, Jinwoo explaining his vision of human bodies as biological storage, falsified clinical trials, 17 names, the surgical suite where conscious patients were harvested. The room erupted. Shouting journalists, clicking cameras, prosecutors moving forward with warrants already prepared. Jinwoo stood slowly. His expression had finally cracked, revealing something cold and inhuman. This is fabricated evidence. She's mentally ill. The chip malfunctioned. Those aren't real memories, they're hallucinations from neural degradation. Then explain this. Jiyeon stepped forward with a tablet. Security footage from Hwasung's sub-basement, dated 3 months ago. My sister entering your surgical suite alive. Her body removed 6 hours later on a gurney labeled organ donor. Time of death officially recorded 3 hours before you actually killed her. The footage played, Jinwoo's face illuminated by surgical lights as he prepared the harvest. Min Seo's eyes open and aware, tracking his movements. The room went silent. I loved you. I trusted you with my life, and you turned me into a storage device for evidence of your crimes. Tell me, was any of it real, or was I always just a convenient vessel? Jinwoo adjusted his glasses. The gesture was automatic, empty now that the performance failed. You were perfect. Perfect blood type, perfect psychological profile, perfect level of desperation. You wanted to live so badly you'd accept any explanation, any miracle. That's what made you ideal. But you're right, I never loved you. I loved what you could become. A living archive, a biological breakthrough. The first successful consciousness transfer in human history. Arrest him, the prosecutor's voice cut like a scalpel. Dr. Jinwoo Ri, you're under arrest for 17 counts of first-degree murder, human experimentation without consent, and corporate conspiracy. Security moved forward. Jinwoo didn't resist. His eyes stayed locked on Zainab as they cuffed his wrists. You're dying anyway. The chip is already 40% integrated. Even if you remove it now, the neural damage is irreversible. You'll lose language function, memory formation, maybe motor control. Minseo won, but she killed you to do it. Maybe, but at least I'll die as myself. They led him away. Journalists erupted. Prosecutors coordinated with hospital administration to secure Hee-jin. Ji-yeon wrapped Zainab in a hug that felt like absolution and grief combined. We did it. Minseo can rest now. Not yet. Where's Dr. Obi? Nena was gone, disappeared during chaos, but her phone left on her chair was unlocked and open to a message thread with her daughter in Lagos. I'm sorry, I tried to choose survival, and I chose wrong. Use the money for school. Don't become me. Don't ever become me. Below it, a wire transfer confirmation for 300 million won. Every cent Nena earned from complicity, sent home before she vanished. They found her 3 days later at Incheon Airport, waiting for a flight to Lagos with a one-way ticket and resignation letter addressed to the Korean Medical Board. She didn't resist extradition, didn't make excuses, just asked them to tell her daughter she tried to be brave at the end. The surgery to remove the chip took 11 hours. Zainab woke in a hospital room that looked nothing like Seoul Genesis, in a facility specializing in reversing experimental procedures. Her chest was a mass of fresh incisions over healing scars, surgical trauma layered like geological strata. Hee-jin sat beside her bed, dark circles still shadowing her eyes, but something lighter in her expression. Welcome back. Shash, how do you feel? Zainab tried to speak. Words came slowly, clumsy, like learning language again. Like myself, I think. The doctors say integration damaged some neural pathways, language centers, fine motor control, some short-term memory formation, but they think with therapy, you'll recover most of it. You'll have a life. Not the one you planned, but a life. And Minseo, her memories are gone. The chip was destroyed during removal to prevent anyone else accessing the data, but her testimony is preserved in recordings. 17 families are getting justice because she refused to stay buried. You both refused. Zainab thought about her mother, who died fighting for dignity in a system designed to deny it. Thought about Minseo, who encoded rebellion in her dying heart. Or thought about all the women told their lives mattered less than someone else's comfort or profit or ambition. What happens now? Now? Hua-Sung Pharmaceuticals is facing criminal investigation in 4 countries. Jinwoo is awaiting trial for 17 murders and 43 counts of human experimentation. Dr. Obi is cooperating with prosecutors in exchange for reduced sentencing, and you are being called the whistleblower who carried evidence in her own heart. I don't feel like a hero. Heroes rarely do. Hee-jin stood, gathered her things. I'm starting a foundation for medical transparency, patient advocacy, protection for international students in experimental programs. I was hoping you'd want to be involved once you recover. Through the window, Seoul sprawled under winter clouds, full of people who'd never know how close they came to being experiments in someone else's vision of progress. But some would read the news. Some would question their doctors. Some would demand informed consent and transparency and basic human dignity. And maybe that would be enough to save the next Zainab, the next Minseo, the next young woman who trusted the wrong person with her survival. I'll think about it, but first I need to go home, to Lagos, to tell my mother's grave that her daughter survived. Barely, but survived. Take your time. We have all the time in the world now. That's what justice bought us. Time to heal. She left and Zainab was alone with her new heart, her own heart now scrubbed clean of ghosts and experimental protocols. It beat steadily, reliably, a rhythm that belonged only to her. Outside, ere snow began to fall on Seoul, covering the city in white that looked like peace or erasure, or perhaps just winter doing what winter does, making the world clean enough to start again. If you've walked this entire journey with us through betrayal, survival, and the fight for truth, then you know these stories matter. They matter because they remind us that one voice, one refusal to stay silent, can crack open even the most carefully constructed lies. Thank you for bearing witness. For those who see the importance in these stories, your engagement helps ensure they reach the people who need them most. 3 months later, Zainab stood in a Lagos cemetery, hands steady as she placed fresh flowers on her mother's grave. I survived, Mama. Not the way I planned. Not the way you hoped. But I survived. Who wouldn't? And I made it mean something. The amber pendant, recovered from the hospital by Ji-yeon's people and returned by international courier, rested warm against her healing chest. Her new heart beat strong and clear, carrying no memories but her own. And that, Zainab thought as she walked back toward the city that shaped her, was miracle enough.